Hola chicos, somos Design Cafés de nuevo y hoy tenemos a Rex Crowle. Vamos a empezar la entrevista con una pequeña introducción. Quería decirles que toda la entrevista luego se va a traducir para los que quieran poder saber más sobre ella. Comenzamos. Hi Rex, I will be happy to have you here. So I will start. Well, I want that the public know about you. So Rex Crowle is a graphic animation designer. He's also a video game designer. He's had working in animation with brands like MTV, BBC, and Disney. In 2006, he started with his own projects in video games and create with Media Molecule, Little Big Planet, and Terraway. Terraway wins 3 BAFTA Games Awards in 2014. That's so great, Rex.
Thank you.
Now we want to know more about you and your work. But first, would you like to say hello to everybody?
Yeah, hola. That's as much Spanish as I know. I'm very sorry. But hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. Yeah, thanks for coming in on the Google Hangout. And yeah, it's great to be here.
Nice. We are happy to start the interview, Rex. Okay, we want to start with the first question. What do you do in a typical day in your work and in your daily life too?
Well, at the moment, I'm working entirely on making video games. As you said in the introduction, I've done graphic design and animation and TV work, but the past few years I've worked just on video games, on computer games. So each day I'm creating creating worlds inside the computer. I'm tending to do a mixture of artwork, drawing and painting in Photoshop, and then creating characters, animating those characters, placing them into the world, thinking of gameplay ideas, how characters can interact together and make interesting reactions and interactions. So lots of different areas, all working together to create a video game. So I spend some days in a larger studio at Media Molecule, where I'm part of a team of what would it be, maybe 50 people, all working together in lots of different areas, from art and design, music, audio design, programming, production, Q&A, lots of different groups all working together to make a larger game. And then I spend the rest of my week working at home, as I am now. It's just me here with my cats, and sometimes I'm collaborating with the friend that I'm making an indie game with. So the two of us will be just sat at home with our laptops, just creating games on a much smaller scale. So it's quite a different way of working. You know, there's 2 styles really that I'm doing. One in a large team where you do certain elements, certain pieces of the game, and then working on the other project where I'm trying to do a little bit of everything all at once. So yes, basically keeping very busy.
Yes. So you started with animation and graphic design, and after you to game design, right?
That's right, yes. I mean, I think my basic progress really was that I originally, as any young child, I enjoyed drawing. I'd draw crazy characters, and then I'd start to want to learn how to bring them to life. So that's when I moved more into animation, and then I was able to make all of these characters move around. But as soon as I started to do that, I thought, well, I can make them move around, but it would be really interesting if I could let people control those characters and make them move and sort of bring the characters to life themselves. So that was the sort of progress, really.
That's really interesting. Rex, what things when you were a child inspire your work now?
What things inspire my work?
Yes, now.
I think it's a mixture of other artists, whether it's heroes that I've had for a long time, people like, there's an artist called Ronald Searle that I like very much, and Ralph Steadman, and then more recent discoveries. Every day you see beautiful artwork online, or open Vimeo and watch fantastic animations, so they absorb all of those, all of that content. And then also just sort of memories of childhood. I think when you're making games, it's good to remember what fun is, and what's kind of an enjoyable game to play as a child. What were fun things to do as a kid, of jumping in water and splashing, or climbing trees, or all of those sorts of things. So I try and still remember what it was like to be very young, so that you can make interesting, joyful, happy game experiences.
Yes. So you can translate that experience for I don't know, the fantasy in your games now, maybe. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Well, Rex, what makes you different to others game designers?
Sorry, could you repeat that, please?
Yes. What makes you different to others game designers?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, everyone's different from each other, really. I don't think there's, I don't think there's like a factory that makes game designers. I think everyone has their own unique influences and background. I guess there's been more in recent years. There have been more game designers that have come from an artistic background rather than from a technical background, which I think, I'm definitely one of those people. I'm not fantastic with technology, and I think it does mean that you naturally make games that are more about character and interesting environments to explore, and maybe unusual ideas and strange elements that maybe, if you were coming from a very technical background, you might not decide to make a game about. So I think it's the kind of artistic approach to game design that I nice. at least try to create.
Really nice. Rex, what would you like to say to who are just starting with game design? Maybe what is the key for a good development of video games?
I think it's the most important thing is to make things, in the same way that if you want to draw, then the best thing to do is just to keep drawing every day, just really enjoy it, just keep doing it, keep practicing. And the fantastic thing with games And technology at the moment is that it's gradually, all the time, becoming easier and easier to get started. So instead of needing to start from scratch, start from the beginning with programming, and it used to be a much harder thing to get into, whereas now there's software like Unity and things like Game Maker. That's another program for helping you make games, and there's ways to experiment and either make things on your own and just try out ideas and just try stuff out, or there are more people out there that you could find to collaborate. So finding a good collaboration with someone that's either more technical or more artistic than yourself, that's a really important really important bond to make. It's a little bit like forming a band. It's kind of, all the great music bands of all time have always been about just really a really good match of different skills of different people. So it's really good to kind of try and find those collaborators that you could maybe make games with, or anything else.
Okay. Before starting the next question, I will remember something to the public. Okay. Chicos, si tienen preguntas para hacerle a Rex, pueden hacerlas desde ya para que se las podamos hacer. No sé si hay ninguna ahorita. No tenemos preguntas. ¿Sí? Okay. Rex, the public asks, how easy is bring to life your characters? Yes.
So, sorry, my internet cut out for a second. Could you just repeat?
Don't worry.
I heard characters. That's all I got.
Okay. How easy is bring to life these characters?
How do I bring them to life?
Yes. How easy is?
So I work in 2D. I'm not very good at 3D programs, and I like to draw out the characters as lots of different separate pieces, kind of like different sheets of paper, and then layer them up and add on various sort of transformations so that things rotate and move. I mean, it's quite a simple process, really. But I think it's, that the important piece is making the character go past the mechanical movement, so that they feel like they're not just being pushed around by you, but they're actually reacting to the scenes that they're in, and that's it's so hard. I still find animation the hardest bit. It's very everyone knows that animation is a slow process, but it is it is always much slower than I want it to be, and I get frustrated because I want to take a character and immediately be able to make them run around and jump and do all of the things that you want to do. And it can sometimes be really frustrating that you have to sit there for a few weeks, like making all of these animations before they can really do anything. I mean, a good thing that you can do in games, which is maybe harder to do in films, is you can make your characters just like boxes that just move around, and you get a good feel for how they are gonna move through the game, and then you can work on all the artwork afterwards.
Okay. Okay. So the process is slow, slowly process, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Very slow. Or maybe I'm just very slow.
No, but we know that it's difficult. No, it's find the right character and everything in the process actually. Rex, let's start to talk about your experience in Terawai. What's mean Terawai for you? It is not your first creation, but it's one of the most popular, right? What's mean to you?
So Tearaway was the first time that I was very lucky to be put in charge of that project. So on Little Big Planet, I'd been working on the artwork, kind of like production design. So how some of the characters looked, how the packaging of the game was, lots of different elements, making the videos, making the trailers. But the founders of Media Molecule gave me an opportunity to lead my own project for Tearaway. So that was it was a big change for me, because I had to get used to being in meetings and making decisions and you know, doing lots of things that weren't just me drawing, doing artwork. But I was very lucky that I had a fantastic team to work with, some fantastic artists, and we were all good friends. So and it was for me, Tearaway was a combination of different desires, really. One was to make a world that felt very tactile, so that you felt like you could touch it, because it was a handheld game on the console with the touch screen.
Yes.
And we wanted to come up with a way to make the game react very, very directly. So we made the whole game out of paper so that it would be fragile, very soft, so that when you press with your finger on the screen, you could see it react. Because if it was a game made out of stone, it wouldn't have any effect. So it was made to be very fragile, very, very, very responsive. So that was one element of the project, of this goal to try and make a game that was entirely out of paper, and give it a very, very unusual look. But also, I wanted to make a game that would feel very personal to each player, so that it felt like a story that they were part of, like they were a character. The person who was playing it was part of the world. And as they play through the game, they make little things themselves, and the world slowly customizes and changes to well, to show the player like how creative and imaginative they are, even if they didn't realize it. So you might be asked to make a simple shape, but then you'll see that shape like growing on all of the trees, and it will start to the world starts to become something that you've influenced yourself. Yes, so it was this combination of an unusual visual style with the paper and with the way it felt, and then with the kind of the personal message behind the game, so that players would kind of really feel something when they finish the game, not just, you know, didn't want to make a game where someone just runs around, shoots everyone, and then gets a big high score number at the end.
Yes.
So something much more emotional than average games.
Oh, nice, nice. We think it's a different experience for the audience, right? With the game.
Yes, I hope so.
Yeah. And Rex, what was the biggest challenge when you started with Terabyte?
Well, I guess a lot of it was really one of the things that made the project easy was also what made it hard. So in order to make all of the ideas we had combined together, making it out of paper was very important because it meant that everything had like a core, like it all had the same theme to hold it all together. But until we could actually make it look and feel like it was made from paper, it was very stressful because we didn't know whether we could achieve it because it's not something that had really been done. There's some games that look like they're made out of paper, but then they don't react quite right. And we created a lot of technology in order to achieve this. So even though the game sometimes looks quite simple, there's a lot of technology underneath that is simulating how it all moves and how it reacts. And we spent a lot of time getting that right. And it was, sometimes a challenge to keep everyone on the team feeling like this was going to be a good goal to achieve, because we could have taken an easier turn and made a slightly more traditional game if things weren't quite working. But we were very lucky with that Sony supported us to keep going and to spend more time on it than we'd originally expected to, so that we could do it correctly.
Great. Well, we want to talk about the world inside Terabyte now. First, Rex, why a paper world?
Say again, sorry, the last line?
First, we want to know why a paper world? Why paper?
It was because it could react very directly. When you touch the screen, you'd see it squash and fold. It was so I had an interesting sort of problem in some ways, where my own artwork is very much like my own style, and I was worried that if I made the game out of my own drawings, the rest of the art team would have a bad time, because they would either just have to copy my drawings or they'd have to just let me do all of the artwork. And I wanted the art team to be able to all collaborate and contribute. So the idea of making it out of paper was so that there wasn't a strong, like, hand-drawn style. It was a style based on how the paper was folded, more like origami. So that meant that everyone on the team, even people from all different departments of the company, could all collaborate and create the paper world together. So that was the main reason, and it meant that the way the game was designed everyone had to think a little bit differently, because certain things that you would normally do in a game we couldn't do because they didn't make sense in a world made out of paper. So yeah, it just meant that everything was almost flipped over, and everyone had to think differently.
Yes.
And it seemed like a good way of setting a goal in a very different way.
Yeah. Rex, even we can print the characters to give them a life, right?
Sorry?
Even we can print the characters.
Oh, yes. That's a very good point. That's another reason that we made them from paper, so that as players travel around the world and as they find things, they can then print out those things that they find on their printer, and then they can cut and glue them, and then they have an actual model version for themselves, which they can customize and do whatever. But I think there's something quite interesting about people play games to get collections in a game of, I've like everyone at the moment, and getting their little Pokemons and building their collections of characters. And then also in the real world, we collect things. There's like a shelf of toys above me, and we all have these little collections, and it felt like it would be interesting to combine collecting things inside a game with being able to collect things that could actually come out of the game, and you could put them around your desk or your table, so that you could actually look at everything you'd seen even when you didn't have the game turned on.
Nice. I think it's really, really interesting. Keep them alive, right?
Yeah. And it's very interesting just seeing how each person that makes the models, they all make them slightly differently. Where you stick the eyes on makes a big difference, and it's a nice way of allowing people to make their own characters.
Rex, we know the audience helps the messenger to get them the message in the game, right? This relationship achieves a greater connection with the video game, do you think?
Yeah. I mean, we as I was saying earlier, that the game is very much trying to create a more personal story. And I always enjoy movies where maybe sometimes they're slightly like cheesier like movies, but where there's like a sequence at the end where you see all of the scenes from earlier in the movie, and you remember everything that happened. And we're trying to get a similar experience in the game, but with lots of twists. I don't want to give away the ending for people that haven't played, but I think it's quite an unusual ending for a game.
Okay. And Rex, now we want to know how important is it to know your audience, and how to get followers who have a real connection with your game.
How important? I think it's important to create things that you want to create yourself. I don't think it's a good idea to create things that you just think are going to be are just going to be popular because they're similar to other things that are popular. But at the same time, nobody wants to create something that is so personal that no one else will enjoy it. So I think it's getting a balance all the time of trying to create something that is important to you, but make sure that it's something that will transfer well to other people. That there are experiences in what you're making that are universal, that anyone can understand. Yeah.
Okay. And Rex, how about the flexibility that you give to the audience to create something that have tearaway, right?
Sorry, the internet was cutting out again.
Don't worry. How about the flexibility to create that have tearaway inside? And you give that to the audience. What do you think about it? Is great for the audience to have that flexibility to create and transform and.
I think I understand. Yeah, I think it's very important to make games that the audience can add to. Is that what you were suggesting? Yeah, all the games that I've ever made have always had a lot of customization, so that players can personalize them in their own ways. I think that's an important thing. You know, we want to make sure that that there's like for the main character, that anyone that's playing feels like they're being represented in the game. You know, that you don't just have to be like the like big strong like white guy who with a gun. You know, you can be a very diverse like human being to properly represent yourself in the game. And I think it's a nice thing to do to make games that encourage players to feel like they could make games themselves. I think it would be a harder thing to do maybe in film or TV to you know, it's hard to make a movie that encourages people to make a movie. You just have to make a good movie and hope that that influences people. But I think in games you can be a bit more direct and allow players to just experience in a very small way what it's like to make a game while they're playing, and then hopefully they'll be inspired to make some things themselves.
Yeah, it's true. And Rex, what do you think about create a fantasy world? Maybe would you like to be there, or maybe change reality to something similar at paper world?
Yeah, I enjoy creating fantasy worlds. I'm not so. I would find it hard to make a game that was just reality. To make a game that is, I don't know, just about living in London, because I'm already doing that. So that doesn't seem like an interesting. There's not a lot of scope to give interesting twists and turns. So I will always, I think, generally try and make more fantasy type of environments. Although for my next game, it's although it has elements of fantasy, it's also built out of where I grew up as a child, and
Yes.
the area that I lived in, and so that's kind of fantasy meets history almost.
Okay. And Rex, which one is your favorite technology advance?
Which is my favorite?
Technology advance.
Oh, that's hard to say. I love the Wacom tablets and Cintiqs for drawing on. I think I'm not sure I'd be making games at the moment if they didn't exist, because it's just such a natural way to paint and draw at the same time. I think for the actual sort of output of games, I think VR is very exciting. I don't know quite how it will be used in the best way, but I think the interesting thing about VR is that it makes it makes just looking at 3D worlds interesting again. Sometimes I think games have to have it feels like they have to have lots of rules and points and things to do all the time, and that all gets in the way sometimes of just being able to enjoy the fantasy of exploring a new world. And I think VR maybe reminds people that it's kind of nice to just suddenly magically be somewhere different, and you don't necessarily want lots of scores and points and things flashing and yeah.
Oh, okay. So welcome and BM. What's the name? I'm sorry.
So as a Cintiq.
What?
A Cintiq screen.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, the one you draw on. Yeah.
Okay. Rex, what things you like so much or collect like a freak? Did you say for your the things that you have there? I don't know.
What's that? Sorry. The things sitting behind me.
Yes, yes.
Oh, there's
because I asked to you if you have something that you collect, or maybe you declare like a freak for something.
Ah, okay. I don't collect so many things anymore. I used to collect lots of the small toys, the vinyl toys, and I think these days I'm trying to not have so many things. I like to have a bit more space. I'd rather have as much desk and table space as I can to get paper out and to draw than have it all filled with too many characters.
Okay. So now, Rex, describe to us what inspires you at work or in your life. I don't know.
So I think what inspires me most is living in a city and being around lots of other people living their lives, doing their things, and just absorbing a small amount of the world around you, whether that's seeing an interesting poster on the wall, or hearing a little bit of music that you've never heard before as someone walks past, or overhearing a strange conversation that you don't understand what the people are talking about, but it sounds interesting. All of the little moments that you can't control yourself. I think when you're making a game or making a movie or anything, you're in your own little world where you control all of the pieces, and you're like puppets, you're controlling everything. And it's very good to be able to be in a situation where you don't control everything, because that's when you get ideas. So I think it's getting outside of the bubble and hearing and seeing and just absorbing more things that you didn't actually choose to seek out.
Yeah, true. Well, now, which project would you like to do because you still don't? Or maybe do you have some new project in mind?
Which project was that?
Which project would you like to do now because you still don't? Or maybe you have some new projects in mind?
Yeah, so the project I'm working on at the moment is a new game which is based on an area that I grew up in. I didn't grow up in a city. I grew up in the countryside, near the sea, and an area that had lots of stories of the past. And that's the game that I'm focusing on at the moment. It's about two little girls on bicycles, and they cycle around, and they have adventures, and solve mysteries, and just kind of do all the stuff that children enjoy doing, digging up treasure, really sort of learning about the world that they're living in. You know, and they're kind of a little bit too young to understand the adult world that they're in, so they use their imagination to dream up all sorts of stories. So yeah.
Sounds great. And now, Rex, what do you think about our event, Design Camp Fest?
What do I think about
Design Camp Fest, our event, the Design Camp Fest? What do you think?
Well, I don't know what I think yet, but I'm looking forward to coming. Yeah,
Okay.
no, I can't wait. Yeah, I've never been before, so yeah, it'll be an exciting adventure.
So you are excited for your conference? Yeah.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. No, it's it will be a long way to come, but I enjoy coming to new places, and like I was saying, you know, with the influences, you know, it's always great to come to a new place and you know, eat new things and meet new people, and just get new ideas and inspirations. So hopefully, you know, I'll be able to enjoy it as much as everyone else.
Yeah, it's totally true. We have the same that you have this year. Rex, I would like that you invite to your followers to see your conference this October 8th and 9th. I don't remember the day, and your workshop this October 7th.
Sorry, I didn't quite catch all of that.
No, don't worry. If you can invite the public that see you in your conference and in your workshop.
Yeah, no, I'm really hoping that, you know, lots of people will come and be able to enjoy it. I'll be doing a talk, talking more about the process of making games, and then also doing a workshop as well, which I think will be really interesting, where we all get to draw and paint and create a game together, like have an actual little game jam where we build something. So you know, that will be really interesting to do as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Great. Rex, we are gonna continue with the questions for you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay, I have a question here. Michelle, why just for PlayStation Vita and not for other platforms like smartphones? I mean, it's about Tearaway.
Was that about the platforms that Tearaway is on? Sorry,
Why just for PlayStation Vita? Mm-hmm.
Oh, why just on the Vita? Well, it actually came out on the PlayStation 4 as well. But the reason for we designed it so much for that particular piece of hardware. I think often games can be designed to work on lots of different platforms, but it means that they don't necessarily take advantage of each one. So for instance, like games on your laptop could be using the camera, but they don't often use the camera because they're working on lots of other different machines. And a goal for Tearaway was to use everything we could about that particular piece of hardware, and it meant that we couldn't just put it onto the iPad or put it onto something else. You know, it was very specifically designed. So it's a different style of designing, really. I think you can go broad and make something that will work everywhere, but we chose to make something very, very specific. You know, because I think sometimes it's very important that hardware and software can really sort of work together.
And Rex, what do you think about the success of Plants versus Zombies? Do you hear
Plants vs Zombies. It's a good game. Yeah. I played the first one. Actually, I played both of them. I think it's a nice design because the two sides of the game, you have the plant characters and you have the zombie characters, and they're nicely designed, and it's kind of a crazy idea of trying to use plants to stop zombies, but it's done with lots of humor, lots of character, and it's interesting how it's quite a complex game underneath the surface, but it's just given such charm and personality that I think that's the reason why it's so successful.
Oh, okay. So we have another one. Why Terawai? I think he asked about the name. Why? What the name Terawai?
Oh, okay. It's one of the hardest things I find is naming a project. Very, very difficult to come up with a good title, particularly if you're making a game where it might just be on a digital store, you know, the digital download. So you might just only see the name of the game, and that name almost has to say so much in just maybe one or two words. So it's very hard to choose a name, and Tearaway was no different. We shouted and argued and panicked, and you know, we couldn't come up with a good name for a long time. And the name was actually suggested by Kenny, a friend and collaborator who wrote a lot of the music in the game and did the audio design. And it was a really good choice because Tearaway means it's obviously connected with the paper of the game, of tearing of paper, and the idea of tearing something away from the main part. But also, I don't know how well it translates, but tearaway also means like a kind of or someone that's a little bit mischievous, a little bit naughty. Something that you sometimes call children, you know, when they're sort of running around and enjoying themselves a bit too much. And it had like a nice sort of cheeky, fun sound to it as well. So that was why we went for that name. And it's quite short. I don't like huge, long titles that. Just
okay, so that's one terabyte.
That's right. Yeah.
We have another question. Okay. Please. Okay. I'm an animation designer. It's necessary to know about programmation of video games and software, or only can I dedicate in video game design, specifically animation and graphics.
So the question is, should they
if it's necessary to know about programmation of video games.
Oh, to do
animation and software.
Yeah, I think I don't think it's necessary. I think the games are at a point where lots of different people are specializing in different areas, and you know, you can be quite specialized. There are people that particularly want to do one very specific part of the game, but it's definitely good to have a good idea of how the whole process works for everyone, because it just means that you can work better with other people if you know what they're going to have to do to create an idea. So, you know, it's something that, although I can sometimes be like the sort of director artist that's like, oh, I want everything to explode and, you know, have these big ideas. I try and always remember how much work is going to go into creating those ideas. So, you know, it's important to have a bit of an idea of how all of those other elements of game making work. And it's, you know, it's quite fun to play around with them as well. It can be quite inspiring. I think if you are designing a game, sometimes it is nice to just have the character and experiment with them and see what happens if they, I don't know, if they try and run up a wall, or what happens if you make the floor really bouncy, or, you know, so it might not be necessarily animation, but you're still playing around with the ingredients of the game to create new ideas.
Okay, so I don't really have more questions. We don't have. Okay, Rex, thank you so much for your time. We are gonna waiting for you. So see you this October.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it.
Nice. Thank you, Rex.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.